Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So it's time to read from the Torah, and you want to be the Gabai. That's the person here who calls people up to the Torah. Let's learn how to do that in this video. So I want to share the text with you, but I want to emphasize that you should have it printed out, or you should look in the siddur, because when you do that on the bima, you're not going to be reading from a screen. So let's look at the text. And if you need the text, just leave a comment in the section below, and let's begin. So it's the easiest thing in the world. Okay, so how does it begin? First, we have two introductory verses. Okay, in these verses, you're not actually calling anybody up. Okay, so I'm going to go over them very slowly. Verse number 1. Ve'ya'azor ויגן ויושיע לכל החוסים בו ונאמר Amen. The reason it's highlighted in yellow is because it's a common phrase. ונאמר Amen. So it's very useful in other prayers. Second verse goes like this. הכל Havu godel leloheinu utnu kavod la Torah. Okay, and now comes the part that you're actually calling up the Kohen, the person who will get the first aliyah. So you say the following two words in blue. Kohen krav. And now the key word of a Gabai, which will repeat itself in every aliyah, this word here, Ya'amod, which means arise, arise, or come to the bima. And now you'll have the name of the Kohen. So I put in here the name of a Kohen in our congregation, but in your congregation, it's probably going to be a different name, but you should still practice reading these names because Jewish names repeat. They often are very similar. In every synagogue you have probably an Eliyahu and a Yonah and a Avraham and a Chaim and a Yitzchak and a Yaakov. So practice these names. All right, so I'm going to say this full sentence in blue here. Ya'amod Yonah Eliyahu ben Avraham Chaim HaKohen. So you called up the Kohen, and now there's one more introductory verse that sums it all up. And this verse actually is familiar because it's part of the taking out of the Torah service. So let's read this verse here, this one. Baruch shenatan Torah le'amo Yisrael bikdushato. Okay, and now the congregation will respond and they'll say their verse. And then the Kohen will get his aliyah. So the Torah will be read. The first part of the parsha will be read for the Kohen. What happens next? So in many synagogues, at this point, there will be a mishaberach. The Gabai will say a mishaberach. I'm not going to teach that in this video. In our synagogue, we don't do a mishaberach in every aliyah. So we go straight to the second aliyah, which is the Levi aliyah. It's going to be given to a Levi in the congregation. And the key word again, Ya'amod Aaron ben Anshel HaLevi. That's it. You called up the Levi, the second aliyah. All right, so he will have the Torah read for him. And when that part finishes, it's time to call up the third aliyah. Okay, so I have another name for the third aliyah. Ya'amod Yehoshua ben Emmanuel Shlishi. You see how it's connected to the word shalosh, right? So it's the third aliyah. Okay, and when he finishes his aliyah, we're going to call up the fourth aliyah. And I have here a different name. So let's practice the fourth, calling up the fourth aliyah. Ya'amod Zalman ben Meir Revi'i. Okay, and now it's time to call out the fifth aliyah. And we have a different guy here. Ya'amod Mordechai ben David Chamishi. Okay, and now the Torah will be read for him. He'll say the blessings, etc. And it's time to call up the sixth Aliyah. So this guy has two Hebrew names, and his father also had two Hebrew names. And that can often happen. So let's read it. Yamod Avraham Chaim ben David Leib Shishi. And the seventh Aliyah, the last Aliyah, let's read that. Yamod Aryeh ben Shmuel Shvi'i. Okay, so that completes the 7 Aliyot. Now what happens? There will be a blessing for the sick people, a Chatzi Kaddish, and then comes the Maftir Aliyah. So the Maftir Aliyah is really a repetition of the last 3 or 4 verses of the Parsha. So that's why it's not called the 8th Aliyah, because it's not unless it's an exception, unless it's a special event like a Rosh Chodesh or a Yom Tov. But normally on a regular Shabbat, it's just a repetition of the last 3 or 4 verses of the Parsha. So, and it's called the Maftir Aliyah. So you see, that's the word in yellow. Okay. So now let's call him up. Ya'amod Noach Reuven ben Avraham Yitzchak Maftir. Okay, so you just called up the Maftir Aliyah. He will have that short section read from the Torah, and then he will stay on the bima. He's not going anywhere because he's going to read the Haftorah. But before reading the Haftorah, we have to lift the Torah and tie it up. So we have to call 2 people up, and we're going to call them up together. And this is the last sentence here. Yamdu hamagbiha vehagolel. And then they will come up, and the Torah, one of them will lift the Torah, one of them will bind the Torah, and you have finished your role as a Gabai. So keep practicing. You see, it's very easy. Just practice a few times, and you'll be ready to be that Gabai. And I'll see you in the next video.